I'm Leslie Wegener from the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters. This recording project is being done in partnership with three other nonpartisan organizations: the La Crosse Area Chamber of Commerce, the La Crosse Area Development Corporation, and UWL's Department of Political Science and Public Administration. Together, our Civic Engagement Coalition seeks to encourage voter interest and participation in the upcoming mayoral election. And we also want to give La Crosse voters the opportunity to learn about each candidate and their views on local issues impacting our community. The format is an informal one-on-one Q&A session between each candidate and Chamber CEO Beth Franklin. Each candidate will be asked the same questions in the same order. We developed the questions to cover a range of topics and have asked the candidates to keep their answers concise so we can cover as many as time allows. They have not received the questions in advance, and candidate responses will not be edited for content. At the end, you'll find more information about election dates and where you can check on your voter registration and what's on your ballot. Your vote is your power, and it takes all of us exercising that power to make democracy work. Thank you for watching.
It is my pleasure to welcome Chris Kahlow, who is running for the next mayor of the city of La Crosse. Chris, thank you so much for being here today. I'll just start off with a basic question. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is motivating you to run for mayor of the city of La Crosse.
Well, thank you, Beth. First, I want to thank the Chamber, LAGCO, League of Women Voters. I think if there was one more, the Political Science Department,
Yes.
for hosting this. I think these are important for citizens to be able to view. So many people urged me to run for the position of mayor. And right now, La Crosse is at a crossroads. We have some real challenges. We also have some real opportunities ahead of us. So this is not the time for someone to do on-the-job training for a role as mayor. We really need a mayor that can hit the ground running on day one. And my experience on city council, as a small business owner, and as someone deeply rooted and invested in my neighborhood and the community, I think make me uniquely qualified to lead the city as next mayor of La Crosse. Also, together, I think we can make the city thrive. So a little bit of my background: I became invested in the city when I bought my first home after graduating from UWL in La Crosse. And I continued to invest in two small businesses downtown. They were both in once shuttered storefronts. And happily, I will say they are both open today. So I think that's a really important point that people need to know about me. On city council, I have really delved into the issues that matter most for the constituents that I serve, whether it was public safety, enhancing our parks, protecting our open spaces and our built environment, and working collaboratively on both housing and homeless issues. And I'm the only candidate who has that experience with both business and city government right now at this time. I'm also the only candidate who's worked on city budgets, and I understand the tough decisions that entails. I also understand the struggles of small business and how important our small businesses are to the city's future. I also know that every citizen deserves a safe neighborhood to live in, and I'm excited to bring my knowledge and experience to lead the city as the next mayor of La Crosse. I also look forward to your questions and being able to talk more in depth about the issues that matter to the people of this beautiful city.
Thank you. So, if elected, what are your top 3 priorities as first-term mayor of La Crosse?
Well, I think I have been working on those priorities, and I'll continue to work on them. I think we all recognize housing is a huge priority, and I want to thank you for being part of that conversation with me recently about housing. I did some research with the planning department, and in the next 5 years, we have over 2,000 housing units coming online. And I think that we should applaud and recognize that that will bring those housing options to the city. I think where we might need some additional help is small incremental developers. So we're building some single family homes, and we have multifamily large units, but what we really need are maybe some what I call missing middle housing, duplex, where a family can buy a home, build their duplex, and then have that investment to help build that generational wealth. Then my first home was a duplex in downtown La Crosse, and it helped me in that wealth for the future. So that is really important. I also understand with the housing is the homelessness, and we are working on that, and I will continue to support the Pathways Home Plan. And I stand by my vote on ending encampments. That was part of that plan. And that is key to public safety as well, not only for the folks who had been in the camps, but for the residents of the city. I think if I had to pick another one that maybe isn't on the tip of everyone's tongue, but what I hear a lot is beautification. And we have a park department that does a great job with some of the planters and flowers. But I really think we could do some things to spruce up some of our neighborhoods. I've worked on a downtown tree planting plan that will help the downtown. I did sponsor legislation to fund a Cass Street beautification that will come up this year. So some of the planters are in place, so we're looking forward to the flowers in the spring. And I think that's important to provide a vibrant, welcoming city.
Very good. Thank you. What are some current city initiatives or policies you plan to support and sustain?
Okay, well, beyond what I've just said,
Yeah.
what I'd like to really make sure that we are funding our parks, our pools, our libraries, and those neighborhood amenities that everyone feels are so important. I did put money back in the budget for this year for the Northside Pool so that that could be repaired and stay in that neighborhood. It was pushed back out again, but I'll continue to fight for that. I think our park enhancements are so important, as our libraries and our city parks. Other initiatives, I think really from the mayor's perspective, is really getting out in the public. I had some great ideas at the League of Municipalities conference where a mayor did a traveling city hall. And he went to the grocery store, sat up a table and said, "Come talk to me about the city." I think that's important. I think supporting neighborhood associations is important. I'd love to bring back Mayor Cabot's conference on neighborhoods. I think that we need to really get back to focusing on our neighborhood associations and strengthen them as well.
Great. Thank you. How can the city of La Crosse increase its appeal as a place to work, live, or raise a family? In other words, how do we attract more long-term residents and fewer commuters?
And I think I've somewhat answered some of those questions in a real holistic approach of having a beautiful city that is safe, that's welcoming. I think the housing is key to that, and we're well on our way to that. I mentioned really supporting more small incremental developers to support those neighborhoods. I think having a strong communication with the university, our tech college, making sure that we're providing the right kind of housing for them and making sure that they're included. I think that's important. And attracting families of whichever kind they are is really important, but we need that housing. My opinion is that we will have a turnover. We have quite an aging population, and we will have a turnover, and it will free up a lot of single-family homes. But what we need to do is help those older folks to maintain and invest in their houses so that that next generation will want to come in and live in them.
Yep. Good, thank you. So the current mayor and city council have discussed adding a city administrator position and then postponed for issue for further study. What is your view on the city of La Crosse adding a city administrator position?
Well, being one of the council members who made that decision to postpone, and I felt it was important. First of all, timing to give us enough time to understand what it meant. How would it affect the role of the mayor? How would it affect the role of the council? How would it impact the citizens? And I thought we really need the citizens to be with us on the journey. I do, in theory, support an administrator, and I really want to be able to be educated on it. And that's why we formed a working group to be doing that work, reporting back to the mayor. I think we can solve some problems and create more efficiencies with an administrator. And I think that possibly that administrator could pay for its own salary in one grant that the city received. So I'm open to that, and I really look forward to the working group's recommendation. And whether I'm in the mayor's seat or I'm on council, if on council, I will be part of that vote too.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
With the city of La Crosse being the county seat for La Crosse County and neighbors with several other cities like Onalaska, Holmen, and West Salem, how do you view the mayor's role when it comes to intergovernmental cooperation when working with neighboring governmental entities?
I feel as though our mayor could have a better relationship with some of our neighbors. And as a council member, we don't hear a lot because we just set policy. But I do have contacts with some of the other folks. And I think we could have better communication, and that would generate just better relationships. I think there is an importance in that. And the whole region, I think, understands that La Crosse needs to succeed for the region to succeed. And I think, and I trust that they're all willing to come to the table and be partners for the success of the region.
Good. Yeah. What do you see? And you had mentioned a little bit about businesses talking about owning your own. What do you see as the strengths and challenges of the local business environment, and what opportunities exist to support local businesses?
Well, as you said, someone who's been a business owner, and I've been writing checks on both sides, supporting employees in their jobs. I know that that is a struggle for employers. Small businesses, I'm much more familiar with than larger businesses, but it's just a matter of scale. Um, the challenges, I think, that we need to really better promote our community and our region to draw people here and to keep our students who are graduating from our schools in the city. And that really is the things I've talked about: having housing, having a vibrant community, having affordable housing, and I use that term loosely, affordable.
Sure.
Those are all important. I really see just promoting the region more as being able to get great employees and wanting to stay. I think we have great natural environment, and there's a lot of outdoor activities, and I think those are so important in recruitment as well.
Good. Thank you. How would you approach relationship building between the mayor, the common council, and city department heads? So I know you have experience being on council. So how would you support collaboration amongst those three entities?
Well, it is communication, correct? And having relationships that are built. And with being on council 6 years, I have a relationship not only with the current council, being elected council president 2 years ago, but with staff and department heads. And it is so integral to know who to talk to. I just had a business owner who had a question, and I knew exactly who to email. I knew the neighborhood resource officer could come in and talk to that person. I know who to email in community risk management to have something looked at. And those are things that I can just hit the ground running on that. Those are already built. And I really am someone who thinks strong relationships are important, whether you agree on a fundamental policy or not, because I think we all agree in the end that we want a thriving, vibrant La Crosse.
Very good. Thank you. As mayor, and you had mentioned higher ed institutions a little bit earlier, but how do you envision yourself collaborating with the different higher ed institutions in the city?
Again, communication. And what I'll say is those relationships need to be built by whoever is the mayor who comes in. And we have a new chancellor. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him yet, but I think there is an importance in that, and we need a collaborative effort between all the universities and the city. And I would just hope to really open lines of communication and again build those relationships that I see as really key.
Mhm. So we talked quite a bit about housing, but in case you wanted to expound on any of your answers, the question is, do you think there is a housing crisis in La Crosse? And as mayor, what would be your priorities on the issue of housing?
Okay. And yes, we did go over that already. I'm not sure if I would label it a housing crisis. I would say we had a housing crisis, but we have made great strides. And when I looked at the spreadsheet of projects coming online, if you talk about the Chalmers redevelopment downtown on the old Tribune site, River Point North adding over 800 units. There's a development coming on 7th and Cass. There's the Collective on 4th, the Haven on Main, the 5th Ward residents, Copper Rocks. I mean, there are just lists of housing that's coming online and set to be started or done by 2028. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. And as I said, where I think the housing really needs to focus on is some of that owner-occupied single-family homes. They're not splashy, they're not fancy, they're not 200 units in a bright, shiny building, but we have a great infill program that the city has, and I'd like to encourage the city to look at purchasing more vacant lots. I think that's really important. Within 2 blocks of my house, there are 3 city lots that could have homes on. And they could be owner occupied. They could be a duplex. It could be a triplex with the owner occupied. So I think that bringing in that multitude of housing types and prices, we don't want to concentrate poverty in one district. We want a balance of housing choices and levels of price.
Okay. And we're on our last question. You had mentioned neighborhood associations and your experience with them. The question is, what is your understanding of neighborhood associations and their role in the city of La Crosse?
Well, I have been deeply involved in neighborhood associations for a long time, but I did help start the Downtown Neighborhood Association in about 2017. I held the role as vice president until a year ago. So from the beginning of the association until I left as vice president, I was involved in that and still am. That group was instrumental in revitalizing Burns Park, their members helping on the Cass Street beautification. We also, the Neighborhood Association helped with period historic lighting in the 10th and Cass Historic District. So I see neighborhood associations as a very vital to the city. And I was around when they first got started, so that's dating me a lot. But when there was just one association in the city, and the city planner really thought it was important to encourage and support those associations. And I think we need to maybe go back to that, make sure that the city is providing support and guidance. And we really need to try to engage more people in those associations. I think membership has fallen off since COVID. But I think the time's right. I think people are ready and want to get active and involved in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're at the end of our time today, and I just wanted to say a sincere thank you to Chris for joining us
You're
today,
welcome.
sharing more information about your views, and we wish you luck on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth.